Okay, so welcome to this episode of Antinatalism Around the World. So today we are looking at Poland, and even though you can't see all of them, this is actually, I'm pretty sure it's the first episode that I've done with three people from a country. So I'm hoping this isn't going to get too mental. But right, before we kick off and really get into antinatalism in Poland, let's do quick introductions. So Lena is the person you can see, and then we've also got Vam and Conundrum, who you can't see but you will be able to hear. So let's quickly do intros, and so if you guys just quickly do like a bit of an introduction to yourselves, and then just like share, if you want to, like how you became antinatalist. So Lena, should we go with you first because we can see you?
Okay, hi, thanks for the invitation. My name's Lena and I run a channel which is in Polish, and its name is Vegan Gym Girl. So obviously I'm vegan, I'm an antinatalist, I'm also an extinctionist. I became antinatalist first, then a couple of years later vegan. I became an antinatalist because I heard about antinatalism from a Polish YouTuber and musician whose name is Kelthuz, and he's a pretty controversial figure and pretty cringy guy. But I used to be his fan because he is like libertarian kind of. He makes music, and he's been a main figure these days. It was around 2015, and first I was like, I felt like, what? That's bullshit. Like, why not have kids? But then I was reading all the discussions in comment sections, and I was like there are not really good arguments against that. The anti-natalist side has better arguments. And then the other thing that made me go anti-natalist was that I had some sort of existential crisis when I was around 16, and I was like seeing life is just going to school, going to work, having your own children, and then dying, and then the cycle repeats. And also I started seeing more suffering everywhere. And became more aware of the ecological disaster that is coming, and that made me identify as an antinatalist, and I'm an antinatalist to this day.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up. I'm going to butcher his name, Kelthuz, because I've got some like notes on him, and I wanted to like talk about him later because we'll get into it later because it's interesting. But anyway, Vam, do you want to go next? Just a quick intro, whatever you want to share, and then how you became antinatalist.
Okay, so my name is Vam. I moderate one of the English-speaking Discord servers on antinatalism, and I became an antinatalist basically by being child-free. Like, I never really wanted to have kids. Like, when I was very young, I always felt pressured to like have kids, start a family. Everyone was like, oh, you're gonna have kids one day or whatever. And I just never really felt it, honestly. And so when I became like a teenager, I discovered that it's a choice. Like, I can choose to not have kids if I don't want to, which was really cool. So then I started seeking like support online for people like me who also didn't want to have kids. So I joined some child-free groups. I went on Reddit and joined the child-free subreddit. And then there, basically, I saw a post. One person made a post about one of the reasons they don't want kids is because you can't guarantee that this kid will be happy. And that really resonated with me because other than like other child-free reasons to not have kids, I was like, yeah, you can't really ever guarantee that your child will be happy or even like anything. Your child might be miserable even though you could be the best parent ever. You never know. And someone on that post commented a link to the Antinatalism subreddit, and I clicked on it, and I saw like what the philosophy is all about, and I instantly agreed with it. Like there wasn't any like, oh, this is crazy. How could you think this? Like I was like instantly like, yeah, I agree with all of this, and I was from then on I was just like hooked on the philosophy basically.
Yeah, it's funny how you describe like you're finding the Reddit, because I imagine someone clicking on a link, going into the Reddit and going, fuck, what have I come into? Right, how do I get out of this? How do I get out?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and in my case, it was just like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Cool. And then Conundrum, do you want to give a little intro to yourself and how you came across antinatalism?
Sure. So I'm Conundrum. I have a channel on YouTube devoted to philosophical ideas with the same name, Conundrum. I also run a Discord server on philosophical pessimism. I'm a vegan, a pessimist, an antinatalist. As for how did I become an antinatalist, I couldn't really say. I first had a contact with antinatalism around 2010 when YouTube was a completely different place. And there was a group of people who were engaging with each other in conversations and debates mostly by posting response videos to each other, but also in the comment sections. And they focused mostly on antinatalism. So that's when I first heard the term and got to know some of the ideas, but I don't really recall a specific moment or a thing that made me think to myself, okay, now I'm an antinatalist. So it's difficult to say.
Yeah. No, I get it. Cool. So let's get into antinatalism in Poland then. So my first thing I just wanted to ask is just like very broad question of like, how does the antinatalist community exist in Poland today? Like I've heard you, well, actually, no, I don't know if any of you have mentioned them yet, but I've heard from people that there were some Facebook groups, Discords. Like, are these active? Are there any in-person meetups? Like, how does the community exist today? Anyone? Well, maybe so it doesn't get too disorganized. Vam, do you want to go first with your understanding?
So the antinatalist community in Poland mainly exists on social media, which is Facebook groups. We have like two main Facebook groups. First one is like just called Antinatalists, but in Polish, and second one is called Niżawka, and I think that both of them are like fairly active, like not like super active every day, but there's like posts fairly often. I think that Niżawka has like around 7,000 members on it, which is pretty big.
Yeah, that's nearly as big as the main English-speaking one, and like way more people speak English than Polish, so that's quite impressive.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that the online antinatalist community in Poland is fairly big in my opinion. there's also like child-free groups on Facebook, and I'm also in them, and I've seen like many mentions of antinatalism in these groups also.
And what is the second group that you said? I've forgotten the word already. Niv something. What does that mean?
It basically means like the low birth rates. Like, oh,
Right.
we like the low birth rates in like Poland or whatever, basically.
Yeah. And what about the Discord groups? Are you at all involved in those, or you don't really have much knowledge of those?
Yes. We have a Polish-speaking Discord server that is also called the same as this Facebook group, which is Nizhawka. And this Discord server is also pretty active recently. We talk there every day, basically.
And Lena, what's your knowledge of the community as it exists today? If you have anything to add.
Yeah, I can add that in the recent months, me and another pretty active Polish anti-natalist decided to create a Polish subreddit on anti-natalism, which is called just anti-natalism in Polish, but it kind of failed. We don't see any activity in there, and this is maybe because there is a site called wykop.pl, which is a kind of a Polish version of Reddit, and it's pretty active. And there's also a pretty active anti-natalist community on wykop.pl, and that might be because wykop.pl has always had a pretty active group of doomers, people who struggle with deep depression, and they make like support groups there, or maybe they just vent there. Also a bit of incels, people who see just their lives as a struggle. So that's not a surprise that in this kind of community also anti-natalism is prevalent, and so the anti-natalist community also functions on Wykop.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because I was actually going to ask about I'm going to say it wrong again, but Wykop. Also, I'm just going to say now, any Polish I attempt to say, I apologize. Like, this apology extends for the rest of this recording. But yeah, so it was cool. It was cool you mentioned that, because I was going to ask about that site, because I'd heard about it. Conundrum, do you have anything to add to what's already been said about the community today?
No, I think everything has been said.
Cool. So that's like the community as it exists. Like, actually, one thing I just want to quickly ask about again is, I might be creating this memory in my head, but I think I've heard about some antinatalist meetups in person in Poland. Has that happened, or are none of you aware of that?
Yes, it definitely happened. From Facebook groups that I'm in, there's pretty regular meetups done by a guy that is an antinatalist himself, and he does these meetups to antinatalists, but also for the child-free people. But other than that, we also do like meetups. I've been on a couple of antinatalist meetups myself with a couple of people.
And like, do they still happen now, or was that something that more happened in the past?
They still happen, and I think that there's plans on them happening in the future.
And do they happen like all across the country, or is it just in like the capital, Warsaw, or?
I think they just happen in the capital, from what I heard.
Yeah, I've heard Warsaw is actually really good for vegan stuff as well. So I've been actually meaning to go to Warsaw at some point. because I was looking at it on. I don't know if you guys know Happy Cow. It's like an app for sort of vegan restaurants and stuff. And I looked at Warsaw on it, and there was so much green, which means like fully vegan restaurants. So I'm gonna have to go there at some point, and hopefully maybe I'll try and like attend one of the meetups as well. Cool. Did anyone have anything to add on the meetups, or Lena and Conundrum? You haven't got anything else to add to that? Cool. Okay. All right. So let's move on from the community to more like activism stuff. So there's a picture that I was sent by another Polish antinatalist of three antinatalists at a march that were holding a sign that says, this is what it says in English, is my understanding of the translation, is antinatalism in defense against life. And there was an article in Vice, or like the Polish version of Vice, where those three people were interviewed. And I can link anything I reference, or any of you guys reference. I'll have the links and I'll put them in the description for people to look at. What are your guys' understanding of antinatalist activism in Poland? Are you aware of any that's gone on? Do you know the march that I'm talking about that those people went to?
I wasn't aware of this picture and or this march, and I assume it might have been an pro-choice march or pro-abortion march, because abortion has been a hot topic in Poland in recent years, and maybe that was this slogan was also a reference to the abortion debate, because of course people who are against abortion say that they defend life, and so these antinatalists kind of turned it around and said that they defend others against life. But I wasn't aware of it at all, and as a vegan activist, I'm not aware of any antinatalist activism in Poland. I mean, if you don't count spreading the message online as an activism, because that obviously happens, as we said just before. But like I don't think that any in-person activism happens.
And Conundrum, do you have any knowledge of this march that those people were on, or any knowledge of any other antinatalist activism that's happened?
A couple of years back, there were many such marches. I don't quite remember the name, but they had some pretty cool names, which were against the government who made abortion much. I mean, it was the government made abortion illegal and access to contraception much more difficult. So the marches were as a reaction to that, but I don't think it was officially connected to antinatalism in any capacity. Maybe some antinatalists just wanted to piggyback on the march, but as far as I know, there is no activism sub-community.
Yeah. And Vam, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think there's like any in-person activism in Poland, to be honest.
Okay, cool. All right, let's actually, because we've already mentioned it, let's go on to politics, because you guys have already mentioned about how abortion has become a very discussed issue in Poland and stuff. So what is the situation at the moment with abortion in Poland, and because I know Conundrum, me and you actually exchanged some private messages on this, so you gave me a bit of context. So can you just give a brief overview of what the situation is with abortion at the moment, and if you expect that to change at all?
Yes, so for a long time in Poland, abortion laws were fairly sane and very similar to what we have in European countries. It was called a middle ground position. But then in 2016, an ideologically conservative and economically leftist party went to power, and they are in bed with the Catholic Church, so they changed the laws such that the day after pill was much harder to get. Pharmacists could deny selling contraception just without any repercussions. And of course, the abortion law was made extremely strict when compared to any other law in Europe. So it was essentially made illegal. And soon after that, there were those marches that we talked about, protesting against all these changes. But yeah, at the end of the last year, we have a new government, so we are expecting all of this to change for the better.
And in terms of politics generally in Poland, like, is there anything to discuss related to antinatalism and Polish politics? Like, are there any trends or laws or political movements in Poland that are relevant to antinatalism? Just like one thing that I've come across is this Family 500 Plus scheme. I don't know if any of you know about that or anything else in Polish politics.
Okay, so about this policy that is like basically it's about paying 500 złotych to people who have children, and it's per month per child. So if someone has a child, they get the money, and recently they changed it from 500 to 800 basically, and its goal was to increase the birth rate because it's really low, and it was supposed to increase it, but it failed completely, and the birth rates are at an all-time low. Last year it plummeted like drastically. I think it was 11% compared to the last year, and basically this program did nothing for increasing the birth rates.
And is there any like common wisdom in Poland as to why the birth rates are so low? Like, is it a known thing in Poland that everyone knows what the reason is, but they just can't seem to get them back up? Or is it kind of a mystery of like, we just don't know why people are having kids? Do any of you know about that?
I think that the birth rates are so low because of the policies that are in Poland. Because the reproductive laws and just abortion laws are so strict that people are just afraid to have children. Even if they want to, they are just afraid that they wouldn't be able to abort or like get a plan B. Because abortion is only allowed in the cases of if it's dangerous for the pregnant person for their life, or in case of rape. But if in any other case, it's a crime to abort. So people are afraid if like the fetus is going to have some sort of like terminal illness or
Mm.
like very severe illness, they won't be able to abort it. So people are just afraid to have children. And also there was many cases of women dying because they weren't able to abort. They were in like severe conditions because of the fetus's condition, and the doctors just refused to abort, and they died of sepsis. And these cases were like, there were several cases of that happening, basically.
Yeah. And I don't know if any of you would know this. I don't know if Conundrum would maybe have more knowledge. But what's the situation with getting like a vasectomy in Poland, or even a tubal ligation, that just getting sterilized generally? Is that something that's very hard to do?
To my knowledge, it's relatively easy to do, to sterilize oneself if you are a man, but from what I can tell, it is much more difficult for women, especially for the younger ones.
No, actually, female sterilization in Poland is completely illegal. You just can't do it in any case whatsoever, no matter if you are young or old or whatever, how many children you have. You just can't get sterilized. Like, if you want to get sterilized as a woman, you have to travel abroad, basically.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's that's crazy. So I imagine there is at least some sort of, well, I guess it wouldn't be classed. I don't know how I don't know what the official term is for someone going abroad to seek medical like treatment or a procedure. I don't. There is a word for it, but I forget. But I can imagine that was also the case when you were saying that it was really hard to get contraception generally. I don't know if that is still the case now. I'm imagining a lot of people there was like a black market for things like condoms and, you know, the pill and stuff like that. Or people were going abroad and then bringing it back in bulk, which would have been a weird thing for the security to open your bag in the airport and it just be filled with loads of condoms.
I mean, condoms. I think that they are just in most shops,
Right.
But there might be problems with medical contraception.
Like,
Right.
Plan B is only for prescription. Like, you can't just go to the pharmacy and buy it. You have to go to the doctor, and he or she has to prescribe it, and then you can get Plan B.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say on that? Is there anything else in Polish politics that you wanted to touch on apart from the Family 500 Plus scheme?
I think nowadays people are also might be just not wanting to have kids because of the hard life conditions. I mean, not that we have some humanitarian crisis or whatever, but it's just hard for young people to get their own flat, to buy their own flat and to have a well-paid job, etc.
Yeah, there's a similar sort of thing in the UK where property prices have, in general, not everywhere, but in general, have significantly increased over the past sort of decade or so, and there's also this sort of narrative in the UK of like, well, that is causing that's like partially to blame for the lower birth rate in the UK because you know, people want to wait until they've got their own property before they have a kid, but it's harder to get on the property ladder in the UK. So it sounds maybe like that there's a similar thing going on in Poland. Cool. Let's move on to like antinatalist sort of projects and resources in Poland. So I've got a few notes here, and please just tell me if I've missed anything or anything like this. But so I'm aware that there's a Polish Wikipedia, and apparently there's a pretty extensive wiki quote page as well, which has a lot of Polish people on that who have said either antinatalist things or things that seem to, have like an antinatalist sentiment. And I hear that they're both being like regularly updated. There's also an online store, I think Conundrum, maybe you sent it to me, I can't remember, which lists like antinatalist books that are either in Polish or have been translated into Polish. So there's a book by, I'm going to get his name so wrong, but Mikołaj Starzyński, and David Benatar's book Better Never to Have Been has been translated as well. What are your guys' knowledge of that in terms of like, antinatalist books that are in Polish or other projects, websites, resources in general? I don't know if you decided for one of you to answer about this, so I'll just leave it open.
So as you mentioned, Wikipedia article is a very good place to start, as is usual the case with Wikipedia, and I would suggest anyone to check it out. As for the books, indeed there is a publisher that helps in translating books and publishing original works. It is called Towarzystwo Naukowe imienia Stanisława Andreskiego, and they translated Benatar's Better Never to Have Been, Najlepiej nie urodzić się, Zaistnienie jako krzywda. They also translated one of Théophile de Giraud's books. I don't recall the original title, but in Polish it is Zbawienna bezdzietność, Antynatalizm we wczesnym chrześcijaństwie. And they also published one book by Mikołaj Starzyński, which is a general introduction to antinatalism in Polish, Antinatalism o niemoralności płodzenia dzieci. And this is a book that is a very introductory work, which just lists all the various arguments that are known in the literature without introducing any new argumentation. And as far as I know, they also plan to translate 2 additional books on antinatalism, which is Benatar's The Human Predicament and Imposing a Lifestyle, a New Argument for Antinatalism by Mati Hayri and Amanda Sukenik, all fun from the Exploring Antinatalism podcast.
So is that, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Did you have more that you wanted to say, or?
We can just continue. I mean, if you have a question, then sure. Shoot.
No, I was just going to quickly ask, so on the translation of the Imposing a Lifestyle one, so are they translating the paper or the book that's going to be coming out that's sort of like by the same authors?
I'm not sure, but I think they plan to translate the paper that is published now.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, Conundrum, please go on.
Just continuing from what I gathered, there was an issue of a print magazine, Filozofuj, which in English is Philosophize. It is a special issue on antinatalism, and it was published last year. So it was very cool stuff. There is an interview with Karim Akerma. There is a history of antinatalistic thought. There is, of course, discussion of arguments and a critique of these arguments. So it's pretty nice. There is a philosopher, Bartłomiej Chomański, who works at the university, at the Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań, who published Antinatalism and the Creation of Artificial Minds, but it is a publication in English, in a journal in English.
Yeah. You know, like your pronunciation of like the Polish pronunciations of different things that I were aware of, makes me realize how badly I was pronouncing before. I used to call him Bartek. I didn't realize the proper pronunciation. But yeah,
I mean, it's a way to say a name in a shorthand form. Just like how you have Christopher, you have Chris, and for two names, Bartosz and Bartłomiej, you can say Bartek.
Right, okay. I quickly so I don't know if you've got more, but I quickly just wanted to ask on that Polish magazine, which I'm not going to attempt to say the name of, but the one that had the interview with Karim. Do you know if there are any plans do they ever do translations into English of their magazines? I mean, I guess people, can copy and paste the text into a translator online, but that's not like amazingly ideal, but yeah, do you know if they ever do that, if they have English versions?
As far as I know, they do not do such things.
And what was your general impression of that magazine? Do you think that they gave antinatalism like a good hearing, or do you think there was either a poor understanding or like there were misrepresentations, or what was your general opinion of that magazine?
So my impression is that it is a very, very nice introduction, because it is a magazine that is focused on philosophy in general. So the readers are used to reading some various philosophical ideas and engaging with material of different kinds. And the articles were fairly good, fairly decent. I don't think they made any major mistakes or misrepresentations on it or anything like that. The only downside is that there are only around 2,500 copies of this magazine, because it's a very small thing. So probably not many people even are aware that such a magazine exists, and yeah, it's a very niche item.
It is available online though, isn't it, as a PDF? So I can include a link to that in the description for people to look at. But I'm assuming you mean physical copies, like there's a very limited run. Cool. So did I cut you off again? Did you have more that you wanted to say?
Apart from things like publications or works of this sort, I know that there was an open lecture on Science Festival in Lublin in 2021, which was about antinatalism. I don't think it was very in-depth. It lasted for around 2 hours, but it was something.
That's impressive that it lasted for 2 hours, but it wasn't in depth. How the fuck did they do that? Yeah,
I mean, there is a lot to say, so you can only skim the surface, maybe.
Yeah. That's impressive, though. I would have thought in 2 hours you'd be able to at least get somewhat in depth. But
I mean, I didn't attend the event, so I'm just guessing it couldn't have been in depth based on the time.
So there isn't like a recording online or anything.
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay, no, fair play. Cool. So,
and on the topic of lectures. Last year I attended Arthur Schopenhauer Festival in Gdańsk, and there was a short lecture on the topic, was Schopenhauer an antinatalist?
Oh, wow. How was that? I didn't even know that there was we would say in America, I'm in fucking, I don't even know what country I'm in now. We would say in the UK, like we'd probably call that like Schopenhauer Fest. Because you're like, if it's a festival, we always add like fest on the end. I didn't even know there was one for that.
In Polish, it was called Schopenhaueralia.
Ah, so how was that? Was that like, that must have been the world's most depressing festival there has ever been.
It was philosophy lectures, kind of festival. There were just a bunch of lectures, and I attended a few.
How was the one on antinatalism? Do you remember like the sort of thing they discussed? Because I know some people sort of dispute whether he is the label antinatalist is able to be applied to him. So what was the lecture like?
I don't remember everything, but I remember that they said that he wasn't an antinatalist, but the justification was pretty weird.
It's actually interesting you bring that up, because another thing that I was going to mention later or ask about later is that I heard that the University of, is it Dansk or Gdansk?
In Polish it's Gdańsk, and in German it's Danzig.
Okay, so Gdansk we'll go with. I was sent I think it's the curriculum for the Department of Iberian Studies in the University of Gdansk, and apparently they are going to be teaching negative ethics, and that's going to include antinatalism. So I'm assuming the people who are involved in that must have been involved in this Arthur Schopenhauer festival, because otherwise it's just a massive coincidence. I don't know if were any of you guys aware that it was going to be taught in Gdansk? Well, I've got. Oh, go on.
I was only aware of this, but I have no knowledge what the specific contents will be or anything like that.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, sorry. Go on, Vam.
Yeah, can I also add about projects on antinatalism in Poland?
Yep.
The scientific society that publishes translated books on antinatalism, they when they published Benatar's book, they organized a meeting on occasion of publishing it, and it included an interview with David Benatar. The interview was online, of course, not in person, but I attended this meeting and it was pretty cool. I learned a lot about David Benatar himself. I learned a lot about how the process of publishing that book went, with the translation and with graphic design of the book and stuff, which was really interesting. And on that meeting, we were also able to buy books published by this society. And also, I think that the society has an online shop with antinatalist merch. So they sell clothes and backpacks with antinatalist symbolism, which help them fund their publishing and their actions in general.
Oh, whoa, that's pretty cool. So that's just so I understand, that's not the same translating publishing house that Conundrum mentioned earlier. That
it's the same.
It is the same one. Okay, cool. Because he said it in the Polish name, so I wasn't sure if it was the same one or not. No, that's cool. So do they? I'm assuming they don't just publish antinatalist books. Do you suspect there's an antinatalist that works for them, which is why they've done a few and they sell merchandise on it and stuff?
I think they are very focused on antinatalism, but they are not just focused on antinatalism. They also published, I think, book about men's and boys' problems. I think recently. So they, but their main topic of focus is antinatalism.
And if you at all have a link to where they sell that merchandise, like the t-shirts and stuff, if that's
Yeah.
still available. If you could just send it to me, whenever
Yeah.
you get the time, and I can include that in the description.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. No, that's amazing. Does anyone else have anything to say on sort of antinatalist projects or anything like that in Poland? Cool. Okay, cool. Because it's kind of linked, so I do have like a big bit on culture that I wanted to go over. But I just wanted to quickly touch on before on antinatalism in the media in Poland. So I have got like quite a decent list of articles that have been published about antinatalism in Polish, and there's a podcast as well I've got, which I'll link in the description. But in terms of us discussing it now, do any of you have any anything you want to share on antinatalism in the media in Poland?
So I think the main in the mainstream media, antinatalism was in that Philosophy magazine, but we talked about it already. And also there's a popular book that is called Loser Men Trapped by Anger and Loneliness, which mentioned antinatalism a lot in regards to like men who are feeling lonely on the internet, and they described how they have like antinatalist ideas basically.
Yeah, I was actually sent that. I was going to bring that up later because I was sent that book, and it was described to me as being about Polish incel culture. Is
Yeah.
that accurate? Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. What are you? Well, okay. Let's just get on to culture now, because I think this is interesting. I got some questions about it. So let's start with this incel book that we because we're talking about it already. What are your guys' feelings towards how about the groups that have adopted antinatalism? Because my understanding, and please correct me if any of this is wrong, but my understanding and what I've learned about antinatalism in Poland is that antinatalism has been adopted by like a few different groups. So we've already mentioned incels, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people online in sort of centrist and left-wing circles that discuss antinatalism as well. But I've also heard that it was adopted by right-wing libertarian circles as well, which maybe goes back to what you were saying, Lena, about this guy Kelthuz, if I'm saying his name correctly.
Yeah.
What's your guys' understanding of that general landscape of like the different groups that have kind of adopted antinatalism, or at least that it has a presence in those groups?
I think that people come to antinatalism from like two different perspectives. Like the first group comes to antinatalism from like empathy and like just feeling concerned for the kids and for people that are about to be born. And the other group, it comes to antinatalism from like a more of a hateful kind of perspective, like the incel community, like they adopt this view because they feel lonely and they feel like they are not good enough, so they wish they never wanted to be born in the first place because their life, they feel like their life is so bad that they adapted this view, which I don't agree with that, like this hateful view. I came to antinatalism from more empathetic viewpoint, so yeah.
No, I think that's a common story in other countries as well. It's something I've definitely observed because I came to antinatalism kind of in the same way you described. Like I came to antinatalism because I was essentially presented with the idea, and I thought, hey, look, I initially had some friction, but then once I, thought about it some more, mulled it over, I was like, actually, this seems convincing, and I couldn't come up with any decent counter arguments. And so it was something I then took on and became an antinatalist. But I didn't become an antinatalist because I personally disliked my own life, or had some sort of active lament over the fact I was born. As far as I go, hey, look, I'm born now, I'm gonna try and have as good a life as possible. And for me, that's it really. But I just recognize that creating new individuals seemed unethical to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it does seem like in many places online, there have been a lot of people who have come to antinatalism from I hate my life is shit, and therefore, I think it's wrong to, maybe some of them then go, I think it's wrong generally to create new humans or new individuals, but maybe some of them are just I regret being born, and I don't think I would consider that antinatalism, but maybe that's the closest label they find, and so they attach themselves to that. Anyway.
I would actually disagree with this. I think
spicy, go on.
It's just my idea. Of course, I can only speculate, but in general, the happy, joyful people don't really have a reason to think about the evils of life. So it's much less likely they would come to the ideas similar to antinatalism, that it's wrong to create new life because life is bad. Why? Because their life is good. So it's just less likely for them to have such ideas. But sometimes when people have a really bad life, really bad time, they can not only think about various hypothetical scenarios, but they can actually feel how bad life can get. And once you understand that, then you can also understand that this can happen to another person who already exists or who may come into existence. So the person who will be created may end up in a similar situation. So I think
I also want to say that if people come to antinatalism from the view that their life is bad, it doesn't necessarily mean that they come to natalism from hate. Their reasons might also be empathetic, because they recognize that they suffer, so other people can suffer too. So they just feel bad for people, not just from this selfish perspective, but from also the empathetic perspective. So it can vary from person to person.
No, 100%. Conundrum. I don't know if you had more to say.
I think we share a very similar outlook.
Yeah, and I don't know if I articulated myself in a bad way, but I don't actually. I don't disagree with anything that either of you just said. I do. You know how some people dismiss antinatalists as oh, well, you're just depressed. I first of all, I don't think it's good to dismiss someone, especially if they're depressed, right? Because if someone's depressed, then you should almost listen to them a bit more and show more empathy to them, and be more of a listening ear. But I also think people who are depressed or have had very bad lives do have more real contact with the suffering that antinatalists are concerned with. So that wasn't my. I don't think someone who has had a bad life and has come to antinatalism that way. I don't think that's a bad thing at well. I think it's bad they've had a bad life, obviously, but I don't think that's an invalid way of coming to antinatalism. What I was talking about specifically was, it seems that there are some people who the main driving force for their sort of adoption of the label is that they regret being born themselves, but they haven't made that connection of I generally oppose procreation, if you get what I mean. And that's that's where I'm not sure if it's antinatalism or not, because if it's just about you regretting your own life, then that seems separate from antinatalism if you haven't made the link to a general ethical position. That's what I was saying, but maybe I sort of didn't articulate it well before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, so I want to... oh, sorry, go on.
Maybe on the topic of these various groups who adopted antinatalism, I think I wanted to add, first of all, this right-wing libertarian group you mentioned. Actually, I'm kind of talking about the past. I discovered antinatalism thanks to this group, because I used to be interested in libertarianism as a teenager, but nowadays I don't know if it's still prevalent in this group, because I'm not a member anymore. Plus, from what I know, Kelthuz is not an antinatalist anymore, and I don't know what the hell he's talking now. He's a weird person, and so I'm not sure if this antinatalist sentiment is still prevalent in this group. But I think that an antinatalism or ideas similar to antinatalism are very prevalent in vegan and ecological groups. As a person who has friends mostly from vegan circles, I can name like a ton of people who are openly antinatalist, or they might have similar views to antinatalism, but they just don't know the name. Of course, if their main reason is in environmentalism, then it's a topic of debate if it's really an antinatalism or not, because they oppose procreation because of the in environmental situation, and not in general. Or I think many of people who are engaged in vegan activism might have like a kind of anger on humanity, for what humanity does to the animals, to the non-human animals. So that might be also a reason why some vegans adopt antinatalist or quasi-antinatalist views.
No, 100%. On the just quickly on the sort of right-wing libertarian adoption of antinatalism, why do you think that antinatalism became at all popular in that group? Do you think it's because obviously libertarians are against the use of force, at least in theory, and they see procreation as an act of force, or non-consensual coercion, or I don't know if you can have coercion with consent, but you get what I mean. Do you think that they sort of saw a sort of ideological like a reflection of their ideology in antinatalism? Because I know there is actually a book online for the libertarian case for antinatalism. It's only like 8 pages long. I'm pretty sure it's like 50p or something on Amazon. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think antinatalism was in that group?
Yeah, maybe that's the non-aggression principle. For what I remember, Kelthuz made a few songs about antinatalism, in which he sings about how the universe is going apart and we are alone in the universe. That there is no life on other planets. So I'm not sure if it was like his serious view, but it can also be like a drive for this sort of antinatalist ideas, and maybe some of them came to antinatalism because of their personal experience, like we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and sorry, Vam or Conundrum, do either of you have anything to add on that?
No.
Cool. Okay, cool. So because you've already mentioned Kelthuz, and obviously you've mentioned that he was was he a rapper, or what sort of music did he do?
Rock music, I think.
Oh, rock music. Okay, cool. Are any of you aware of any other antinatalist music in Poland? I have two noted down. One.
Wow. Damn, you are like more knowledgeable on antinatalism in Poland than myself, because when I started moderating this subreddit in Polish, I was like thinking about an antinatalist music in Polish, and only Kelthuz came to my mind.
So, well, I won't read out the two that I have, because another person sent me some information, which is why I have like quite a few notes about antinatalism in Poland. But Vam or Conundrum, are you aware of any sort of music artists that have mentioned this or are openly antinatalist themselves?
So the owner and administrator of Polish Discord server on antinatalism, Nirawka, who has a nickname Milson, also has a YouTube channel where he posts his music, which is a form of rap music, and he has a couple of songs with antinatalistic ideas in them.
Cool. It would be amazing if you could send me a link to that afterwards, and I can include that. Vam, do you have anything to add?
No.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the two I had noted down, and again, I'm going to butcher the names. So one is Nagrobki. So it's Nagrobki. I might have said that completely wrong.
Nagrobki.
Yeah. And apparently...
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, so apparently they have a song called Bloody Svit. I forget what that means in English, and I might be pronouncing it wrong. And I'll read out the other one. And actually, what I'm going to do is while I'm doing that, I'm actually just going to post them in the chat that we have, so that you can see the names, so that in case I'm pronouncing them massively wrong. And the other one is, the artist is Mata, and
wow.
Yeah, and can one of you say that name of the song? Because I don't know how to say that.
Elektryczne krzesło.
Yes. So what do those two song names mean in English?
Bloody Świt. Let me check it in translation. Maybe some of you know.
It means, I think, pale dawn, like when the sun rises up, plain dawn.
Yeah.
And the other one is electric chair.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's kind of interesting, because Mata is like one of the most popular rappers in Poland, but I'm not big on rap music, so I wasn't aware of this song.
So yeah, I've been sent these songs as sort of like antinatalist songs or songs that contain like an antinatalist sort of sentiment. So yeah, obviously you guys have got the names now. I'll include the link in the description for anyone who's watching, and they can make their own judgment as to how antinatalist they think they are. But those were the notes I had. Does anyone have anything else to add on music at all? Cool. Okay. So another thing I had noted down in terms of culture is that there was an antinatalist art exhibition in 2020. Are any of you aware of this?
I wasn't.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to get the name wrong. So I'm actually going to post it in the chat again, and one of you can maybe read that out. Are any of you able to read out that guy's name and the city that it took place in?
Michał Gontarek in Wrocław.
Okay, cool. So that was an antinatalist art exhibition that took place in, well, I don't know if he would have called it an antinatalist art exhibition, but it was an art exhibition that was inspired by antinatalism. I don't know if there were other pieces in the exhibition that weren't to do with antinatalism. There is actually an interview with the there were two things. There was the art exhibition was in person. It was a physical art exhibition. Obviously if it was in that city. There was. Sorry, go on.
Let me just hold on, because if it's like the link you've sent before, it's Galeria Bielska, then it's not in Wrocław, it's in Bielsko-Biała.
I think it was shown twice, so it might be that it was in two different places, and I'm only citing one of them. But I've sent that link. So, but anyway, sorry, I cut you off. Were you going to say something else about it?
This BWA. This is a name for a chain of galleries which are in many cities in Poland.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that was the source of confusion, or maybe it was also in Wrocław. I don't know.
Yeah. But so there's an interview with the artist. It was a written interview, so I don't know if it was in some way like put into a video, but there was a written interview at least with Amanda on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast, which Conundrum has already mentioned. So again, I can leave a link in the description to that. And yeah, do any of you have anything else to share about antinatalism in Polish culture in any aspect at all?
I have one item to share.
Go on.
Which is that a couple of years ago there was a play in theaters with seemingly antinatalistic motives. The play was a variation of Don Juan or Don Juan, however you want to call it. It was very weird and it was very bad.
So I'm assuming you went to see it, or were the reviews?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I went to see it.
And what was the storyline? So, like, why was there sort of seemingly antinatalist messages in there? What?
Well, I heard about the antinatalistic motives when I read the description of the play.
Right.
But what happened in the play, I couldn't say. It was too chaotic for the human brain to create a memory of it.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. It's like sometimes you have those people that they're into like experimental theater, or I don't know how you don't.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's so experimental that you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there's no way you can even comprehend this.
Exactly.
Yeah. But on the other hand, some of it's good as well. Cool. I've just got two more things to touch on because I know we've been going for a while now. The first one was I just wanted to ask your guys about your guys' experiences, and obviously only share as much as you want to on this. But I wanted to ask, what has your guys' experiences been discussing antinatalism in Poland with friends or with family or other people you've discussed it with? Vam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I personally don't discuss this topic with family because they are just a really natalist family, so there's just no point of bringing it up. But I do bring it up with friends if I feel like this friend is open enough to like discuss philosophical topics and stuff like that. So my experience was very mixed. Like some people reacted very defensively and they were just like arguing with me about it. But I also had experience where my friend was, he actually wanted to have kids, but I brought up antinatalism with him and he was open to discuss it with me, with all the arguments and stuff. And in the matter of like a couple of discussions and in time, he eventually agreed with all of my arguments and he said that I'm right, and he basically decided that he will not have his own biological children.
Oh, whoa. That's, yeah, what a character arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Cool. No, thanks for sharing that. Conundrum, what's your experience been like?
Well, I tend to not discuss antinatalism with people in person. Some time ago, I tried doing something like that with veganism, and it never went well. So now I don't really try doing that with antinatalism at all.
Yeah. No, I get it. You know, not everyone's in a situation where it will go well, and often it can burn more bridges than it builds and stuff like that. Yeah, and Lena, what's your experience been like?
Personally, I used to be a kind of person who keeps discussing their views with other people, which kind of leads to good or bad results. And when I was in high school, I started. I became an antinatalist, and I discussed it with my closest friend from my high school, and she wasn't like very open to that. The same with other with a couple of other friends, but some of them also mocked me. But now they are my ex-friends, and but when I started being more in leftist vegan circles, I discovered that many of my friends also have similar views to antinatalism, even if they don't know the name for this view, for various reasons. And the funny thing is that me and my best friend, we were like friends for 12 years, but we had like on and off contact with each other, and the funny thing is that when we started talking more, I was like I bring it up that I think I am an antinatalist, and she was like, "Oh, I think I am an antinatalist too." That was pretty cool. And if it comes to my family, my parents don't agree with me, but they are okay with me not wanting to have my own children, and with me being an antinatalist, and the last summer I went to America with my mom for holidays, and I was like very happy to attend antinatalist stop having kids demos, because as we said earlier, there's no such thing in Poland, and my mom was fine with that, but she obviously didn't join us.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, like it sounds like you guys have had like a variety of experiences, which is what it's expected. But I'm glad that, there's been at least some positive experiences. Because there are some places where, you're just not going to get anywhere with anyone. So that's good to hear. The final thing I wanted to ask about was just like antinatalist figures in the present day, but also in history as well, who were Polish. So like I said before, there's a Polish wiki quotes list of loads of antinatalist or seemingly antinatalist quotes, and obviously quotes are made by people. So there's a list of people there that, either are, were, or could have been, or could be antinatalist. So I'll leave a link to that in the description, and people can go look at that list and make their own judgment as to how antinatalist they think they are. But I just wanted to ask you guys if there are any people that are alive today or have been in the past who you think or know are antinatalist that you wanted to mention.
The only person who is openly antinatalist and is a public figure in Poland, I know, is Jaś Kapela, who is a very leftist journalist and kind of celebrity nowadays, and he's a poet, and he's vegan, and he's an antinatalist because of for ecological and ethical reasons.
Right. Yeah, it'd be amazing if whenever you get time, if you can send me a link to, I don't know, if just if there's like any quotes of his or something, or some sort of book or etc., and I can include it in the description. Conundrum or Vam, did you have anything to add on that?
I think we should also add that today probably the most known Polish antinatalist is, of course, Mikołaj Starzyński, the author of the book on antinatalism, but we discussed it briefly earlier.
Yep. And Vam,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, all three, for doing this. It's been great talking to you guys, and apologies for all the technical stuff at the start. Obviously, people watching will realize that, the visuals are slightly different from normal. Yeah, before we finish, I just wanted to, an open floor opportunity for you guys to share anything you want people to go see, anything you're working on. Obviously, Conundrum and Lena, I will link your channels, but I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to point people in the direction of, and Vam, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to point people in the direction of either. So let's go Conundrum first. Did you have anything that you wanted to send people that way?
Eat plants, stay calm.
Cool. And Vam, did you have anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Cool. And Lena, did you have anything?
I can just say that I plan to make more videos in Polish about wild animal suffering. So that's more like a negative utilitarian or ethicist topic. But maybe I will make more videos on antinatalism in Polish. I think One thing that we lack nowadays in Poland is some sort of Polish YouTuber who is antinatalist and makes a channel on this topic.
Well, they have you and they have Conundrum, so they've at least got two people who will have some content around antinatalism. I don't know, Conundrum, do you have any upcoming videos you want to mention? Any insider knowledge?
I mean, I am planning or working on a video currently, but my channel is in English.
Yeah. That is very true. Cool. Okay, well, thank you all three for coming on. It's been really great talking to you guys, and I think people are going to be really interested. And hopefully, even though this isn't going to be in Polish itself, hopefully at least some other Polish antinatalists will be able to watch this, but people from around the world as well, to learn about what antinatalism is like in Poland. So thank you all so much for doing this with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.